It's not about whether or not these protests or boycotts work, but we're understanding why they don't work, so to speak. And
Exactly.
what I feel like I'm getting is, well, let me ask you this, because in other groups, say whether the Asian community, the Jewish community, they seem to be very well organized. Should we have systems in our internal structure internally as Black people that reward our allies, who those who are, as they say on code, or punish, what I'm saying, um, betrayal internally. You know what I mean? Is that effective? Do you think that that's practical or realistic? And is that something that would work as we branch out and we start to deal with the external world?
That's a good question. I think that we have to understand. So back again, this latent group. The latent group is a group that fails to organize and act in a way collectively. I mean, the members they fail to align their actions to achieve their common interests. That's what makes them, by default, by definition rather, a latent group. Groups that are mobilized, large groups that are mobilized, they're mobilized because of um, really two reasons. One is that there there are coercive mechanisms that a central elite develops to organize them. And so when we talk about a nation, for example, or nation state, the state is that elite that creates the kind of mechanisms to force people through coercion to do things. It's why the state has to have a monopoly on violence, because it forces you to do things that you may otherwise elect not to do, like pay your taxes, like obey the law, and so on and so forth. All of these things are actually collective actions. When you pay your taxes individually, we all pay our taxes collectively. We allow our we allow the state to organize those resources and to deploy them for our collective benefit in ideal circumstances. In some cases, they waste those resources. But when you don't have that central organization, those central institutions of the state, then you have what's called a latent group. Now, there are three broad forms of control that any group can have. One of them is coercive, we talked about that. The other one is actually narratively based, which is that you have to educate the people to know that they are belong to a particular group, and that the group has an interest, and that they have to act in ways to benefit the group interest, to identify with the group interest first and foremost, and to act in ways that realize the group interest, and to not identify with other group interest, and to not act in ways that realize other group interest. The Black community in America has done only a basic leadership, in particular, has done only a surface level effort in educating Black people into understanding that they have a unique set of interests. What they have not done is educate them into identifying what the alternative interests are and what kind of actions need to be habitual for them to realize the collective interest. And this is the problem that Black America has, is that because it doesn't have the coercive ability, none of us can make any of us do what we don't want to do, right? That's a significant handicap that we have. But then we also don't have the education to train us, to enculturate us, to do things for cultural, habitual reasons to make us aligned. And then the third class of power that you have to get a people to do something for their interest is the reward, the positive reward, the incentives, right? And so, because when the civil rights movements and other movements occurred of with similar strategies of boycotts and protests, what you had is that still a handful of black folks went out and protest, boycotted, sat at certain in places and for example at dining parlors in America and were brutalized, but they were able to get the civil rights bills passed, and then everyone benefited. So a small group of people acted in a way that the entire group benefited from. And therefore, the masses of the people kind of didn't engage, didn't participate, and they still don't participate. They don't engage. And so to get them to engage in mass at the biggest level, you have to have the last resort that we have as black people is to have positive incentives, exclusive incentives, though, meaning that you don't get it unless you participate. That's the only, we have two recourses in Black America: educating and training each member of the group to do certain things that accomplish our goals, and creating exclusive incentives that you only get when you do these things. But that requires a lot of organization, a lot of planning. You can't just do it in the fourth inning, at the end of the fourth inning. You can't do it as a reaction to events. It requires the vision and the forethought of saying, what has been our experience in America and in the world? What kind of challenges do we face as Black people in this environment, this society? And what kind of challenges have been reoccurring and are likely, therefore, to occur in the future? How can we build the organizational capacities? What kind of things we need to have in place so that when things like these anti-DEI initiatives occur, we already have the infrastructure, the game plan. We've rehearsed them. We've trained our people from the babies to the elders. Everyone is trained and prepared to act in unison to bring about the outcomes that we desire. And so to call for a boycott at this level, this late in the game, without having done that kind of work, is likely to result in failure, meaning that the goals and the outcomes that are being sought will not be realized.